Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. This is Austin Linney here. Guys, I sprung it on him. He doesn't even know. This is his first podcast. We were having a meeting and I'm like, no, we're going to do a podcast because, there's not a lot of people that I talk to on a regular basis that I have more respect for than this man, who he is as a father, as a businessman, just as a person in general. And so I wanted him to come on to share his story so he may inspire others, because I feel like lately I've been running into a lot of people that are looking to make that jump. And, this year for you has been interesting, to say the least. So take us back. We don't need, you can do the whole story if you want, but more importantly, take us back to the beginning of this year and what you were doing and kind of what's happened since.
Yeah, well, thanks for springing this on me, Austin.
Corey Mason, by the way, everybody. Corey Mason.
Yeah. So I guess the beginning of this year, January, I was just so discontent with what I was doing every day. So I was a commercial real estate broker, and I was doing that for about 4 years total. And I just found myself searching, just chasing money, but also learning along the way. And I asked myself, where do I want to be in 5 years? And it wasn't a broker. And we're based here in Cincinnati. It's a very small, community of real estate people, and everyone knows every move. So, God, it was just boiling up, in my soul, where I had to do something. And I didn't know what to do, but I knew I wanted to be in real estate, and I didn't want to work for anybody. So the pain of staying the same outweighed the pain of change. So I knew I had to have some sort of disruption in my life in order to make that jump. And that month of January, I was just searching. And I think that's how we found each other on Instagram. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, man, the rest was history from there.
Before we get into what happened, what was holding you back from making the leap? You're a father, you have bills, you have other things. Was it fear of the money, or was it fear of just I don't know if I can do this?
I always believed in myself. It was the money. I had, a 6-month-old at the time. My oldest is 5.5. Is there somewhat, and I'm not a father, but is there somewhat where if you make that leap, it feels selfish? Does that ever come into play? No, because the conversations with me and my wife were just completely, how can we design our life around our business? So my mindset was, this was completely unselfish because I can actually be at home. And when she goes to the grocery store at 10:30 on Tuesday, Reese can nap in the other room and I can still be at home working and help out. And our biggest dream was just at January 1, how can we design our life that whole year? Trips, whatever, vacations, experiences, challenges with our family, different, adventure things that we can do to design our life in a way where we control our calendar. And I just felt like I couldn't do that with what I was doing. So those conversations you have with your wife or significant other at night, or, on the weekends when you're drinking coffee and you're like, man, what kind of life do we want to live, really? And you start peeling back the layer. And then something inside of you just starts to build. And then you got to jump at some point to see what God has out there for you and have the faith and belief in yourself. And at the beginning, money is going to be the biggest thing that you're scared of. But I ask myself, what's the worst thing that can happen? I live in a van down by the river with my family. At least I have my family, because I know in my heart I'm a grinder and I can hustle and I can make things happen. But that belief in yourself from the beginning, when you have no deals, is tough.
Yeah.
But there's going to be no right time to do it. Right. I mean, still away a little bit of money, but I only had like 3 months. And, some people might say that's like, irresponsible, but I'm like, I can always get a job if I wanted to and, build that back up. But how bad do you want it? Like, do you want it really? Or do you kind of want it?
Mm-hmm.
And those were some of the questions that I asked myself. And I knew I had to become a different person. To achieve those goals that I set out. So I think just thinking through it now, that's how we met. It's like, okay, what mindset, beliefs, values do I have to adopt to be that person that can provides, flexibility at home, seeks out the best opportunity to provide for my family in a way where we can just live our life the way we want. And it takes transformation is the best word for it.
I talked to 2 guys yesterday. I said, part of the joys is it's all on you. And part of the misery is it's all on you. Yeah. It's dichotomy of, you get what you want, which is your time and your freedom and your choices. But also you don't get to blame the boss anymore. You don't get to blame the environment. And so when I tell everybody is there's 2 things in this universe that always find a place: time and money. And if you don't plan, if you don't schedule yourself out, transitioning from I work in an office to I have 3 kids and I'm at home is probably not the easiest thing in the world to get the schedules right. But your wife is so supportive that I'm sure maybe it took a couple of weeks, but I'm sure you started getting in a groove.
Yeah. I mean, it was cool because we had to establish a schedule that we can actually both, be on board with. But as you remember, like at the beginning, it was just like, no VAs, a couple softwares, my overhead's $300 a month. And I'm just trying to find single family wholesales and multifamily deals that I can bring to other people. And it was every day, like 9 to 6, just calling on the phone, not even knowing if what I'm doing is going to lend to a deal, but it's just having that faith. Like if I put in the work, like I truly believe that God was going to take care of me because I had such a weight off my shoulders that there was no other choice for me. So it was like this 3 decisions that I usually process in my head is like my heart, my head, and my gut. It's like those all 3 were aligned at the time. And then you were in my ear as well, which I really think was the catalyst. Because I remember taking that video on my last day of work and just going in there, filming it before I walked in. And it was almost like a funeral, like the tone of it. And it was like, why the fuck am I so like depressed about it? Like, this is like a great moment, but looking back, you didn't know what the future held. So that's the entrepreneurship life. And it's like, I was talking to you about this a couple of weeks ago, that imaginary suffering that goes on in your brain where you don't know what's going to happen or come in. Now you seek some sort of, stability with what you do, but it's never fully going to be there. And can you accept that?
Well, you're seeking stability in your habits, not in your income. And I just thought of that. So, think about that, right? Mm-hmm. And I told this to a client yesterday. His need for money and how he's treating it like Lord of the Rings Gollum is the reason that he's not getting it. Because it's the only thing that he's focused on. So when you focus on something, it will elude you. It's not until you surrender and just say, I'm gonna live in the process.
And by the way, we will never stop chasing money. The entrepreneurs will never stop chasing money. But I think it's super important to be aware that you can understand that there's so much money out there to be had. It's infinite, right? So you will never stop trying to achieve more. But I think it's really important to look back and say, what do I really want? Like, what is my number? What is my lifestyle?
Yeah, but it's more everything. It's more time with my kids. It's more love. Right. It's more. And so when you create this abundant mentality from an entrepreneurship point of view, that's why it's so attractive.
And people think it's sexy now because, they see all the Instagram stuff, but dude,
it sucks.
It sucks. And it's also, you're in the dirt a lot, man, like literally and mentally.
Let's just call it what it is. The ability to grow as an entrepreneur is solely based off of fixing shit.
You're putting fires out.
Yeah, all day. Dude, every day I have that George Strait song in my head. Call me a fireman. That's my name. That's all I do all day. Because what I realize is that, especially as a CEO and leading people, they're only paying you for your judgment. That's it. People can do everything. A VA can do this, and an acquisition guy can do this, but they're saying, should we do this? Two different scenarios.
Yeah. And at the beginning, it's like, which task do I give to someone else that's kind of below my pay grade? And when do you actually have time to put together the training for that? So like, I'm at this point in my business where I've done some deals. I got some capital, some working capital. And it's like, what's the first task to hand off? Because I can't do it all. And I really do think it's important to, wear a lot of hats at the beginning and understand everything and your systems. And I'm not even saying I have mine in check yet, but that's another piece that, you struggle with early on is, how can I scale this in a smart way? But like you were saying, if you really can't scale a company until you can master yourself and your leadership and your habits and your daily activities, because how can you teach someone else on your team to be a killer if you're not holding yourself accountable? And it's like this thing that I work through every day and think about, like, how I can become a better version of myself every day, because it's my duty, like you said, right? Like, it truly is my duty.
Well, I interviewed this guy yesterday, and he said that all business problems are just personal problems wrapped up in business solutions. Meaning every problem that's in your business, whether it's sales or lack of confidence, is merely just personal. That's a personal issue. And we disguise it as, well, my business is, he goes, every time my business is this, his clients say this, he's like, okay, well, what's going on in your personal? And once they fix the personal, it fixes in the business. It's how it is. So how long did it take you to get your first deal after you left, and talk us through how you found it and what happened?
Yeah. So I left February 11th, my actual job. I think we had a conversation on the 8th. So I went in there, I was like, I'm done. And I went straight to work. Like, you recommended like a little break for the transition, but I couldn't afford that. So I pulled a bunch of data and I cleaned it and I skip traced it. And I just went to work based on which zip code I want to own in right now and do business in, which just happens to be in my backyard. So I made, I don't know, hundreds of calls every week. And I finally got a lead of this owner. He was older and he wanted to get rid of his properties because he was moving to Florida. I was like, okay, this is great. Met with him. He didn't sign the first time. Met with him again, didn't sign. And then I realized that rapport is so important and you can't just think about the checks that are going to come. So I began to kind of dive in his story and his son, you know, what he wants to do with the money. And it kind of solidified our relationship. So I bought his deal, his duplex for 95, and I wholesaled it for 115. And then I bought his other single family for 40. And I think I wholesaled it, or I double closed on it for 80 or 90. Mm-hmm. So like within the first 36 days, I think I closed like 60, 65. So and it was like,
so what did that?
Yeah, it was just insane. Like I remember talking to you and it was like this barrier just broke. And it's like, I can do this. I put in the work. Like this works, right?
No. Not only this works. I work. I saw something. I made a plan. It happened. It didn't matter if that first wholesale was $1 million. That confidence from that, done.
The floodgates were off. And then I was like, all right, what else can I get? And I picked up, I don't know, X amount of units this year that I didn't think I could ever do. My goal this year was 50. And I know it's a lot just like from ground zero, but we're getting there. Like, and I'm excited about it. And I'm figuring out a lot of things like, who to bring these deals to, who I like to partner with, who's a good operator. And this is funny. Every relationship I've ever had that has been fruitful has been through a cold call or a cold message. And I've been brewing over this for like 2 weeks. And my partners now, my lenders, my property manager, you, my wife, all the jobs I used to have, you have to put yourself out there and you have to bet on yourself. And you have to be willing to hear no, right? I heard 500 no's when I was making calls. And it's just that one yes or maybe, right? You slip in and then you get it done. But I don't know. I went on a tangent there, but you got to be willing to overcome the worst thing in your mind that you think that's going to happen to you, because it's not going to happen. That's the secret. As long as you're willing to put in the work and let God, universe, take care of everything else. And it's a hard thing to overcome, because a lot of people think, man, I got this money coming in for my W-2. I really want to go full time. I'm just going to save a little bit more money. Like, how many people say that? And I said it too.
No, they say it, and 5 years later, they're still doing it.
Yeah. Like, no, dude, pull the plug. Jump.
The money is not going to give you the security that you think it is. It's going to give you breathing room to operate in a free space to maneuver. But what I think was so important for you in your situation is that two things. One, your wife was completely on board. The second thing is that your monthly nut on your house and your lifestyle was lower as well too. So you had a lot of freedom. But I know that the defining moment for you was interesting, because I was on vacation, whatever you want to call that. My whole life's a vacation, but but you had made some money. No, I don't think you had done it yet because this was early March. So you hadn't popped a property yet, or you were about to or something.
Yeah, like March 15th was like when I.
And I know you can't pull it up because it's too deep in the messages, but summarize what I said in the messages.
Dude, you're so supportive. Like, I can't remember exactly what you said.
I remember.
I know it was positive, and you were my biggest cheerleader. I've never had, other than my wife and my mom, someone that was in my corner that was just that wanted to see me be successful, not only financially, but just, I think, really, Linney, your definition of success, and I'm just defining it for you, is to see others be the best versions of themselves every single day and establish the habits that will get them there. Because the money is going to come if you do that. Because if you focus on the money, you're going to run yourself into the ground. If you focus on your mind and your body and your spirit, build your foundation.
They talk about burnout all the time. It's because you're chasing the money. Because you don't like it. That's why it's up and down. But I remember what I texted. I was very supportive, but I also said, I really think that your previous coworkers would welcome you back.
Oh yeah.
And that's really set you off.
Yeah. When I was, and you would also, you got on my ass when I woke up at like 6:30 one day. And if you're in this coaching program, you have to work out. You got to wake up at, whatever time designated, 5, 6. And he texted me. He's like, it's okay. I'm sure your coworkers will take you back, with open arms. I'm sure your wife and kids don't want any more time with you. And that was a slap in the face as well. And I was just like, I have that on my board now. Like, I will not trade time for money because I will watch. This is what you said. It's okay. Someone else can raise your kids. Someone else, you don't have to be there to watch your kids grow up. And you have someone else say that to you in the most loving way. That's special.
It's really hard, and I really want everybody to understand this. It's very hard for me to get across the amount of adults that don't have anybody in their corner, like really in their corner with no ulterior motives. And the thing is like what we're actually seeking out in the world, me included. I have my mentor will be here in 2 hours. Like me included needs the support and need somebody to slap the shit out of you when it's needed, but also need somebody to say, and I have that with, Cassie and my girlfriend, like, and she just makes me feel so silly when I get so like worked up about something. She's like, hey dude, like 6 months ago you were here. Look at and I'm like, oh, that's a good point. Like, and if anybody's seen, which if you haven't, I don't know what you're doing with your time, Indiana Jones, when he has to do the gauntlet thing and he walks out on the bridge that's not there, he just has to believe it's there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Because it's never going to be stable. That's not the defining, that never in the word entrepreneurship is the description stable.
Yeah.
But the description is whatever you want it to be. Well, damn, that excites the shit out of me.
Yeah. You got to be creative in your own sense. I don't think I'm like artistically creative, but I'm the type of person, and a lot of entrepreneurs are, you don't want to be in that box. You don't want to be, you don't want to be told what to do. Not in like an ego. Maybe there's a little ego in it, but I truly believe that's not how we're supposed to live life, because we can't fully be ourselves. You see the weirdest people, and most of them are entrepreneurs. I'm telling you, I was thinking about this yesterday.
There's art to it, like some sort of like creative kind of mechanism.
They have their own style, tattoos, interests, their little spin on. No business is the same. I don't care if it's a wholesale business or multi.
You know what's crazy, man?
Business.
You know what's crazy? I met a guy, I interviewed him. You got to meet this dude. Super great coach and businessman. So he does dent repairs on fancy cars with no paint chip. It's all heat and movement, right? Mm-hmm. And he did $350,000 last year by himself, and nobody even knows the name of his like business. And I said, isn't that a metaphor for your coaching business too? You're bending and shaping metal without chipping the paint. And he goes, I never thought of it that way. But what I'm saying is there really is something out there for everybody.
And just commit to it, whatever you do.
By the way, he said that 16 times in the interview. Commit.
Really? Yeah.
He said, I'm not going to give any other advice. He said, commitment is all you need.
Yeah, because there's a lot of different opportunities out there, but it's like, let's go deep in real estate. There's a lot of aspects of it, but this is my mindset now. I'm just going deep in rentals and wholesale and using that income to do whatever I want with it. Mm-hmm. Whether that's other businesses, and when I get to that point, whether that's scaling, but I want to build this up right now. So I have a credible investment business in my market that people come to me for their flips, their rentals, and their large multifamily investment properties. Like, I want to be top of mind for that here in greater Cincinnati.
What do you think the aspects of wholesaling is easier than you thought and harder than you thought?
Cold calling. Mm-hmm. It's easier than I thought it would be. I used to make hundreds of calls every week as a multifamily broker, calling these owners that are more sophisticated. And I'm not saying, single family owners are not, but it's not as scary because there's so many opportunities out there where I know that next no is getting me closer to the next yes. So cold calling, it's scary for some people, but you just got to get on the horn and just make those calls. It's all repetition. It's all a numbers game with that. I hate selling deals. When I get them under contract, it stresses me out. I love the acquisitions part. And unless I'm selling to a hedge fund, which is super easy to sell to, it is so hard for me to establish those relationships right now because I'm a one-man band. When I put a deal under contract and I do a disposition, now all my energy is to the disposition and qualifying the buyers. So I don't have those relationships quite yet in my market. But I think I told you that. It should be the most exciting part, but I hate it because I have to qualify all these people and a lot of them are tire kickers. And I just feel like I don't have time for that. Mm-hmm. But in general, it's a pretty simple business. There's a lot of, it's pretty unregulated as well, which is good and bad for some people. But you can easily go down this road where you're trying to take advantage of people, putting deals under contract just to renegotiate or not really having a buyer. I mean, really, you should put deals under contract that you can buy. Mm-hmm. That's legally what you should do. So it's getting over that. I really had a hard time man, do I really want to continue to do this? Because I just felt like there was a lot of internal conviction with what I was doing at times, until I had the mindset of, I'm going to just try to solve their problem. Whatever problem they have, how can I solve it? And how can I be that hero to help them get to where they want to go? And that really helped me, have a better mindset about wholesaling. But at the beginning, it was all about money. Like, just to be honest, just to keep afloat, because that's all I thought about. Mm-hmm. And then once I had that breathing room, it really, I'm trying to figure out how I can build a really substantial business with good people that do the right things always. So I'm in the thick of that right now.
And I think what's important to me is you and I talk business from time to time for sure. But I think what's the most impressive thing to me about you and your wife is that there's certain people in my life that I want to model after when I'm a father. And the respect that I have for you and your wife and who you are as a mom and dad, it's really at the highest level. And I've never actually even spoken to your wife, but we've texted a bunch. And she scares the shit out of me. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, your wife, I think if she went into boxing like a couple of weeks from now, I'd be like, yeah, she's going to win. Like, and so what is it like to have a spouse I just feel like the communication's there, but also on board with the ride,
Yeah. I think it's super important as a father to cast some sort of vision for your family and have a set of values and beliefs that everyone can get behind. So we have these things in our family that we talk about, whether that's just saying, hey, the Masons are different, and not in an ego way. We just do things differently. We don't live like everyone else lives. We stand up to bullies. We do the right things. Like, my daughter last week was like, Dad, my heart is filled with gold and I just want to give it to people. And I'm like, that is what the Masons do, right? And we were committed. I mean, we got married in college. So she played soccer and I played football there in college. And it was one of those things where I just knew, I was wild in college until I met her. I just knew that I wanted to settle down, and I'm a committed person. So I committed myself to her. And it was like that from day one. And we always had this thing in our hearts that we wanted to build a family together and live life differently. And I give her the freedom. She's a stay-at-home mom. I give her the freedom I don't give her the freedom, but I want her to be home too, because we have more influence over our kids. We have more time with our kids. And we just have that on our heart, that more is caught than taught. And whoever your kids spend the most time around, that's who's going to influence them. So how can we cast a vision for our family where their wants, needs, and desires are taken care of so they don't look for it elsewhere? And how can mom and dad view the kids as an asset and not a liability? Because, society nowadays looks at kids as a burden. Well, those kids didn't choose to be here. We wanted them to be here. So what can I water in their souls? What gifts do they have? Talents, skills what do I see in them right now at the age of 6, 5, and 1 year that I can cultivate and create an environment for them to thrive? I ask myself that question. And the answer is dad has to be home first in our situation. As soon as dad can have his own business and be home, that gives us the freedom to do what we want to do and also tailor our schedule to benefit our family. So it's constant auditing our thoughts and what we're doing. We just put them in school. We were doing homeschool, but it's just 3 hours a day. So there's a lot of things that we're just still figuring out, but it starts with a vision, beliefs, and then some training tools at the dinner table, one-on-ones with each kid, Wednesday nights or Thursday nights, date nights. Prioritize your family like you do this business whiteboard. Like you can literally whiteboard it. There's a reason why the Rockefellers are so wealthy and they all carry the same values, because they have family meetings and they discuss these type of things and they make decisions that impact the next generation and not just you and the car you have in your driveway. And that long-term mindset, typically it takes a lot longer to get there, but it's typically more purposeful in your heart as a husband to know that what I'm teaching my kids is actually teaching my grandkids, right? So we're super passionate about family and that dynamic, and it's something that's always on our hearts and minds. Mm-hmm. How can we create that environment, and how can we influence their hearts so they can be the best versions of themselves?
Love it. Mm-hmm. Love it. So I'm going to ask you one last question. What advice would you give to Corey, December Corey, of this previous year?
Yeah. Worrying is not going to get you where you want to go. That imaginary suffering that you have in your brain right now is not real. Focus on the present work. Do the work to get there, and everything else will fall into place.
I love it.
I mean, it's simple, but it's been in my heart the past week or so, that advice. Because when you asked me, hey, what advice would you give to your kid right now if they were going through this? Just keep going. Just keep going.
Couldn't agree more. The only way that you give up is if you stop. It's
1,000%.
I mean, like, I really feel like the difference between me now and me in the past is that I do things, or I get it done even when I'm not at my best. I really think that's the separation between who I was and who I am now.
So hard. That is like the hardest thing. It's like not negotiating with your feelings. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like how that is a separator. That is such a big separator. And I struggle with it daily. Whether that's waking up, working out, whatever, read my books. It's easy to, let things slide a little bit and say, all right, I'll read 20 pages tomorrow instead of 10 today. I'll make up for it. As soon as you do that, man, it's a slippery slope.
It's a slippery slope because as an owner of a company and as a boss, if you start slipping, then how can you hold your coworkers or your people that work for you or anybody you do business with? How can you bitch on them? I think everybody else's standards of everybody else are pretty high, but I want you to turn the mirror on you. Like how can you hold judgment over other people if you're not doing what you should be doing?
Yeah. That's a big problem. Self-awareness is not talked about, really.
Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, nobody's ever perfect. But if you get up the next day and you say, I'm going to be better than I was yesterday, that's all you need. If you do that over and over again, because I'm telling you right now, when you're living the process, this happens really quickly. I mean, you haven't even been wholesale in a year. Like, can you imagine what this looks like in 6 or 7 years? It's going to be ridiculous.
Yeah. And by then, I'm going to have larger multifamily apartment buildings, which is going to be great. And you don't know. You don't know what you don't know, but I do know that I'm going to put in the work to get, what I want out of life. And I don't even want to pretend that I know what the future holds anymore, because it gives me worry and anxiety. And I can have the goals, like you say, shelf them, put them on the burner, show up and do the work. I mean, if you want to get it, if that's what you really want, like in your heart of hearts, what do you want? And what price are you willing to pay to get it? That's it.
I love it. So if people want to follow along, even though you don't post that much, how would they do that? How would they reach out to you?
I have an Instagram. I don't post that much, but it's Corey M, Corey M as in Michael Mason. I think that's my handle. Just shoot me a DM, man.
Perfect.
I'd love to talk to anybody.
I love it. Guys, if you got some value from this episode, send it out to your friends, share it with somebody that could get some value from this, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Construct Your Life with Austin Linney. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to start constructing your life by taking immediate action on what you learned. For show notes, resources, and more information on one-on-one coaching with Austin, visit constructyourlifepodcast.com.